This is my third meetup at ClickHouse, and most of the times I've seen various people come and talk about these are the engineering benefits to this, the latency, the performance, and all of that. So I'm going to take a slight detour from those conversations. First of all, I'm Gururaj or Guru. I'm the CEO and founder for a company called as Thrivestack. We focus primarily on what we refer as growth intelligence, and I'll talk to you about that. But we're going to focus more about how we are using ClickHouse to actually accelerate our innovation, accelerate our productivity, not just for the analytics. We'll talk about the analytics part of it, but I'll touch more upon how it's actually accelerating our innovation. What is Thrivestack? So Thrivestack is a growth intelligence platform. That's not something that we called ourselves. Gartner called it, so we are sticking with it for now. Apologies if it's still too confusing. We work and we provide growth intelligence to B2B SaaS companies, and our taglines is find and fix and prevent growth leaks. What we mean by growth leaks is across your customer journey, all the way from marketing, which is think of it as awareness, to acquisition, activation. Acquisition is someone signing up to your product. Activation is someone setting up of your product. Monetization, someone converted and actually paid. Engagement is someone actually using or driving more engagements to your product. The retention is what we call as maybe renewal of a particular customer at the same price point. And expansion is something what we call as something that you do in upsell, which means your NRR has increased from, let's say, $100 a year to $110, $120 a year. Right? So you're expanding to the market. At every single stage of these, there are growth leaks that are happening. For example, there might be hundreds and thousands of visitors coming to your marketing website, but only 2 of them sign up to your product. Right? So that's the leak that's going from awareness to acquisition. So what we do is we essentially find out all these leaks, recommend them, compare that against the industry benchmarks, and we tell them these are the things that you should do to fix this particular leak. And we prioritize them, we help them understand what those are. Why did I start doing something like this? Here's my journey. I've pretty much spent almost about half my life as an employee at a large company, be it Microsoft, be it Oracle. The second half is where I've been building startups. So I've done 2 startups before. The first one was Avid, which was backup and recovery. Got acquired by a set of investors. I built Cloudniti, which was essentially a CSPM or a cloud security infrastructure management product. Got acquired by Zscaler, and now I'm building Thrivestack. And throughout this journey, I understood that, especially with the AI age, growth is happening at, not driven only by marketing teams, not driven by, the sales teams, but it's also driven by the product, and it's also accelerated by AI. So all of these 4 components that are coming together, and we need a growth intelligence engine to find out what's working well and what's not working well. So here's how companies have been doing this for quite some time. So they would go and buy various tools available in the market. Sometimes these are marketing analytics tools, product analytics tools, revenue analytics tools, retention analytics tools, and maybe a whole bunch of other tools to go and stitch them together. For example, you might have, let's say you buy a segment or a CDP engine to collect the data from all of these tools, put that into a data warehouse, attach that to your CRM, and start understanding an account level intelligence or customer level intelligence. That's how traditionally mid-sized and large companies have been traditionally doing it. But that's not enough. So for you to understand each of them, you'll have to correlate. So that's where they will go ahead and get a couple of data engineers, stand up a data warehouse, correlate all of these things. Again, that's not enough. You have to go figure out the alerts, figure out the visualization, what are the different growth metrics that matter to your company. You also might need to do the automation, right? So this is where the data to insights to decisions that happen typically at mid-sized companies. And the effort to something like that is, for a mid-sized company, think about maybe $400K to $500,000 of yearly spend, on people, if they have 1 or 2 resources, plus tools, plus infrastructure, and plus all the engineering effort that requires, associated to it. So that's about $500,000 per year annually, for a mid-sized company, just to do all of that part. Which is why we are building this to essentially do a full customer journey growth analytics all the way from first touch to being a loyal customer. So let me touch upon, and by the way, this is our dashboard. So sorry for the pixelation. So something is wrong on the pixelations, but here it's a dashboard across the entire journey, which touches upon all the way from awareness, which is the first touch, to acquisition, activation, monetization, engagement, and all of that. So here, example, you're seeing, hey, what's the activation rate? What's your revenue looks like? What's your engagement? Which features? And by the way, these are just the widgets on the top of the page. Behind the scenes, there's a lot of other reports and all of that. And this is what we are essentially trying to replace. We are trying to replace the red stack, which is all the attribution analytics tools available in the market, marketing analytics, product analytics, revenue analytics, account research, churn analytics, a whole bunch of things around there. So especially we are going after, rip and replace about 8 to 10 odd analytics tools with a single growth intelligence tool. So let me talk about how our ClickHouse journey has come into being. So I'm going to touch upon really 4 things. The first one is how we've been using ClickHouse traditionally, purely only for a data warehouse as an OLAP engine, and what our learnings have been there. We will talk about how correlation and real-time insights is something that we found out much later after we started using ClickHouse. We'll touch upon that. How we are using ClickHouse to enhance the developer productivity and what's the results associated to it, and what's the story about innovation. First, let's touch upon traditional data warehouse. Again, we have separate R&D versus test versus staging versus production instances, and we have various idle timeouts within that, which allows us to configure when they should boot up, stand up, and all of that. We also have a scalable data ingestion pipeline. Purely from an architecture standpoint, we have a front end which is exposing various public APIs. We send the data, essentially, it's an event collection. Every single click, every single marketing visit, every single product page event, sign up event, login events, all of these are events. We collect that, send it to our controlled AWS S3 buckets. From there, we use the S3 queues from ClickHouse and start ingesting it to ClickHouse tables. That allows us to really turn on. If there's more data that's coming in, we'll pay more for the ingestion. If there's less data coming in, we'll tone it down, right? So that allows us, but we have still fully reliable pipeline all the way to S3 bucket, and then we can control the cost, control the operation beyond that part. The next part I want to touch upon is the sub-millisecond queries, and we did a massive test between Databricks, Snowflake, of course ClickHouse, and 3 other Postgres-based analytic provider, Nanotech or Nano.tech or NanoDB, Timescale, and MotherDB or MotherDuck. And we put in about 8 terabytes of data on each of them. We put up a single front-end UI with about 30 or 35 odd widgets, and then we timed it. How long does it take for us to load all the widgets from the top to bottom, and we timed it. And we did that for at least about 100 times for each of the products. And by far, ClickHouse exceeded, 10 terabyte was, there was absolutely no difference between 1 terabyte data versus 10 terabyte of data, hardly a couple of milliseconds difference. But the rest, of the tools that we used were horribly, horribly slow. So that's why we actually picked up, ClickHouse from a analytics or real-time analytics engine. Let me touch upon the next one. We use again a replacing merge tree. Very sure that many of your teams might already know some of these things. We are essentially looking at data deduplication, really background mergers when we are sending like multiple events. So we want to pick which of the event essentially wins. Imagine this, let's say you have a user with various attributes, and he's done this and he's done this. And we look at what's the complete user profile. So we essentially do deduplication across all of the event streams, and then create a single profile from that, right? So the ClickHouse essentially, or replacing merge tree essentially helps us bring all of that very fast. Next one, I think parametric functions is a given. We definitely recommend that. We were doing it the hard way. We're writing our own retention graph, looking at the retention cohorts and building the hard way. 3 or 4 months back, one of our engineers attended a ClickHouse event, in San Francisco. So we have a small team in Bay Area, and they found out that the parametric functions actually perform way better than we writing code by ourselves. So we are essentially using all of the retention graphs, creating all the cohorts purely based on now the parametric functions out there. We of course use materialized views. I know a lot of this has been talked about, so I'm going to skip that a little bit. Okay, so here's a slight change that we did. We had only 2 developers, backend developers, working with ClickHouse. All of the data engineering work, all of the infrastructure work, and all of the querying, writing the queries, testing it, sample data, and all of that was done all by the two engineers. Essentially, that became a bottleneck. So if we had to go and add more, front-end engineers, add more widgets, is all getting bottlenecked by the 2 data engineers, at the back end. So what we turned, we ran a hackathon, and we said every engineer, back-end, front-end, data engineer, essentially gets on the innovation path, uses the SQL AI assistant, and starts, building up. So we essentially say, hey, these are the widgets that we want to build. These are the things. Let's go distribute this across the board. Use the AI assistant to go and write queries much faster. So that was the first step that we took. And by doing something of that sort, with the same team that we had, almost more than, from 2 developers focused purely on data engineering work, we now had almost about 8 odd engineers, looking at this. So essentially, we scaled our developer productivity by just one hackathon, and essentially asking them to start using the SQL AI assistant, from ClickHouse. So thank you, ClickHouse, for this. That actually helped us not hire more data engineers, but use the existing ones. The second thing that we did, and this is growing really well. By the way, how many of you use Claude or Cursor? Okay, so Claude. So we are also a big fan of Claude. And this is what we did. We started integrating Claude and ClickHouse MCP server, and we started asking natural language query that, hey, can you go build me, a widget, or a bar graph or something of this sort, and it'll automatically understand our database schema. It automatically understood that this is what the preferred output of that is, and it built us, let's say the new user signups in the last 7 days widget, almost in less than 30 seconds or so. And by doing some of that sort, we started figuring out, hey, there are so many things our customers have been asking. Why can't we just automatically bring that, to the front end by allowing Claude and MCP integration? So this has more than quadrupled our team's innovation cycles. So which means that we don't have to necessarily wait on working with the data engineers. Hey, can you go build this query? Working with the front-end engineers, can you go build this particular UI? Working with the back-end, or middle-tier engineers, exposing an API. All of that is now getting done in less than 30 minutes or so, right? So that's a huge, it's a massive, help in innovation cycle. Okay, so the results are the following. So 20% reduction in engineering resources, meaning that we don't have to go hire additional engineers. So we can actually reduce the engineering budget, by across the board 20%. Product experimentation or release velocity, has increased quite a bit, which means that, if there are 40 odd customer requests pending, we are now able to do much of that within 2 to 3 days time, rather than taking a sprint of maybe 2 weeks or so and then pushing it out to production and then do some kind of an A/B testing. We can now do all of that within the next 1 or 2 days. COGS, well, here's the bad news. We are using ClickHouse more. So I think the biggest gainer in all of that is ClickHouse. We are paying them more and more. So that's 40% higher COGS cost to us. There are a couple of things that we want to do, and if there's somebody else who's doing it, we would love to work with you or interact with you. The first one is we want to embed the Gen AI interface on our front end. So in our case, we sell to B2B SaaS companies, and we want to have an interface to them where they can use our product and make a query which goes directly to ClickHouse and automatically build these widgets or correlation, all of that. We don't know how. If there's somebody else who knows how to do it, we know how to build the front end, we know how to build the back end, but tying all of that together, we would seek some help. We also need help in creating triggers. For example, if someone says, hey, here's my activation rate, which has dropped less than 40%, we want to automatically trigger almost in real time. We don't want to do a batch job saying that at the end of the day or at the end of the week, create an alert, and that gets hooked up to a workflow engine. We want to do this as real time as possible. So essentially, those two things, we want to bring them to our products. If there's somebody else here who's been there, done that, and using ClickHouse as an OLAP engine to actually make that happen, would love that. And I want to conclude on that one. So again, thank you to ClickHouse. Here's about us. You can go to Thrivestack.ai. You can try that yourself, or you can talk to us. We are probably one of the innovators across Gartner and Forrester ecosystem that they're advising us to mid-size and large-scale companies to eliminate so many odd analytics tools to bring a single analytics dashboard across the board. Again, thanks for your time. We'll open up for questions.